Hey everybody, and welcome back to Inside Our Phillies. It is July 2nd, 2025. The Phillies have just taken two of three from the San Diego Padres here in Philadelphia, and I am here once again with sjphilsphan. Welcome back to the show, SJ.
Yeah, it's good to be here for a positive episode for once.
Yeah, this is going to be a mostly positive episode. A lot of good things to talk about from this series, and I think both of us are feeling pretty good overall. So in this last series against the Padres, which we had a weird off day in the middle because of the rainout, but they won 4-0 on Monday. The first game of the doubleheader today, they lost 6-4 in a game that really didn't feel like it was all that close, but ended up being pretty close at the end. And they won tonight in fireworks night, 5-1. And I was at that game, but I am here recording this podcast instead of watching the fireworks. So, anyways, let's get into the games. And SJ, I'll let you take this first. What stands out to you the most from these past few games?
They offense just seemed there for once. They were battling consistent, not many terrible decisions that made me throw my hands up and say, "What the hell are you doing?" I was just very pleased. I wasn't angry at all in this series, besides the second inning of the first game of the doubleheader.
You weren't angry when you thought Marsh got thrown out at third base?
Oh, I mean, I was livid, but the replay was showing that he was safe.
So let's get right into Marsh, because I think we have a lot to say about Marsh. And I know you had a lot specifically to say about Marsh. So why don't you start us off there?
Yeah, I mean, he's been hitting the ball really well lately. He's batting over 260. His OPS is over 700 now after that home run. But his base running mistakes are just prevalent still. It's multiple times a year he makes a very dumb decision. Today was by far one of the bigger ones. We were down by two out. He's on first. He tries stretching a single from going from first to third when there's two out. When his run does not matter, and luckily, just a bad throw is the reason why he was safe.
I am complete agreement with you. Marsh to me is somebody that I've always had a pretty high opinion on. I never got all that low on him early in the year. I know he was terrible until he got hurt, and then even after he came back for the first few weeks. But if you look across the last few years of Marsh's play, he's always mashed right-handed hitters. He's the long side of a platoon, or right-handed pitchers. He's the long side of a platoon there, which is great. And even with him being a part of the platoon, he's worth about 3 WAR a year for you. And I know that's not at all-star level or anything like that, and I think we probably thought he was going to be a little bit better than he is when we traded for him from the Angels. But number one, it looks like we won that trade because Logan O'Hoppe really can't play defense. And number two, out of the young core, if you want to call them even a core anymore, and if you want to call them young anymore, he's pretty easily the most productive out of the three between him, Bohm, and Stott.
Yeah, the O'Hoppe is great offense. Actually, not even that well lately. Wow, I didn't realize he was struggling recently.
He's having a bad year. Why don't you tell us his stats?
Yeah, he's batting 228 with an on-base percentage of 260. Slugging is 448, but for an OPS of 708. But I feel that was done a lot in like May.
Yeah, and the problem that the Angels are going to run into with O'Hoppe is his bat is great for a catcher, but if you want to be putting him at DH or first base or something like that, it doesn't really play there. So he might not actually be some kind of all-star mainstay at the catcher position like a lot of Phillies fans thought we were giving up for Marsh in the first place.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was a place of luxury. JT was still very much in his prime. I do that trade 10 out of 10 times. We needed it that year, and still we lost without Marsh right now. And I mean, right now in the system, we have Tayit, who's killing it in the system, and he's the catcher of the future. So I have no ill will of this trade, no matter how it turns out at this point.
Yeah, there might be a couple like weird years in between JT and Tayit, but we'll see in the offseason here what happens. But with regards to Marsh, you have to be happy with how he's hitting the ball. He's hitting it pretty consistently with some force behind it. His attitude is he's one person on the team you never have to question it. And I think that he has been fantastic since he came back from his injury in general, and I am looking forward to seeing what he does the rest of the season. But one of the younger players of this team that I am not feeling as optimistic about is Bryson Stott. Bryson Stott has kind of been an interesting player for a while. He came up in 2022 and was not great at all when he started his major league career and ended up getting sent down. He got called back up and had a pretty good year in 23 before a not so great 24, and then a not so great 25, at least offensively. What are your thoughts right now on Bryson Stott, and what do you think his long-term future is really like with the Phillies?
They need to get Kevin Long to redo his entire swing. If you look at it, when he swings, he's got one of the worst bat speeds in the league. Yeah, it's rated 15th percentile. It's terrible, but his swing, it's so big and long, like a golf swing, and it results in exactly what you expect: pop-ups.
Yeah. And it's absolutely no exit velocity behind him. It feels like it's all the pop-ups, it's weak contact. And I would love to take a look at his swing, but I don't know if this is something that can be fixed. Some people just aren't swinging the bat hard. They don't have the strength. That's not the way they play. And I do think that Bryson Stott provides a lot of value to the team aside from his bat. He's a good defensive second baseman. He might not be elite, but he's a good defensive second baseman. I feel like he isn't frustrating to watch. He's a good base runner. And he gives you a long at bat and he gives you walks. So his floor is pretty high, but where I'm at right now on Bryson Stott is what is his future like? Because a couple of years ago, we were talking about giving him, a long-term extension, buying out RBers, all that good stuff. And now I'm at the point where is he a long-term answer here at second base and potentially shortstop in the future once Trey Turner moves off shortstop? And I'm starting to think that he's not. What about you?
I think he's long-term, at least a couple years at second base. His defense is really good. I like it a lot. His base running is great. I am a firm believer. I want to see what happens if he changes his swing. In 2023, which was his best year offensively with us, his launch angle was 10.1. Since then, it was 14.0, 14.8, and 12.6 this year. And it's you can't get bat speed with his swing. It's huge. It is way too long. I honestly think he's strong enough. If they completely change his mechanics, he could be a totally different hitter. And honestly, it is a larger discussion with what is Kevin Long doing for the team at this point? It's been there for many years. Our offense has honestly regressed more and more so. And I think it might be just time for a change in voice in the batting.
I agree with you. I mean, across the league right now, you're seeing a pretty down offensive environment. It seems like the pitchers are 2 or 3 steps ahead of the hitters at this point. But for the Phillies especially, seeing the regression in guys like Stott that have been productive major league players and they're just not really anymore, at least from the offensive side of things, it's concerning to me. I don't know what the answer with Stott is. I believe you could still option him to the minor leagues if you wanted to. I know if you go by WAR metrics, he probably wouldn't be losing that much value by going from Stott to, say, Sosa at second base for a few weeks or a month while you kind of give Stott a chance to get his swing right in a low pressure situation. And I don't know if I love that, but I definitely don't mind it, and I think that the Phillies should be open-minded as to what can get Stott right, because he's in there. He's been there before. We just need to unlock it again.
Yeah, and the thing is, there are so many questions about this team that the team just doesn't answer. You have Stott's batting. You have Strom's velocity, which I still am waiting for anyone to question the team on.
Yeah. I mean, Strom again today, it was a pretty easy inning, all things considered, but it didn't look easy. It looked like he was still not having his A stuff, and maybe that is who Matt Strom is now. He's aging. Pitchers lose some velocity as they age, but this is definitely more than what you would expect.
Yeah, but Bryson Stott, the worst case though, will just be a really good bench bat. Fourth, the fourth utility guy. Like he could play second, he could play some short.
Yeah.
He's better than Buddy Kennedy, that's for sure.
Absolutely, by a long shot. And Stott still has 2 years left of team control after this. It's crazy to me how quickly this entry level deal for Stott's coming up. It's unbelievable, but I think he's in there. We just got to unlock it. And the next young guy that I really wanted to talk about a lot is Mick Abel. Mick Abel was probably overperforming in his first couple starts. The kind of command and the ability to reduce the walks that we saw in his first few starts was not something he ever showed in the minor leagues. And I think it was just lucky that his first 2 starts in the major leagues, he was able to have a really good K to walk ratio and limit the base runners in general. And there's been regression to the mean and then some with him. He has been very poor for a couple of starts in a row now. And where are you at on Mick Abel, and are you worried about his trade value? Because we hear all of the time that Mick Abel could be a big trade piece for the Phillies this season.
Yeah, his trade value definitely went down a little bit today, but the fact that he did show some success his first couple starts, I think boosted up a lot in his minor league track record this year. But of course, I have no idea where the ball was going today, and I have no idea how they fixed that.
Right.
His velocity was very good. The curveball, like, it had movement, so maybe he just had trouble repeating his delivery today. It's something they need to correct. I don't know. Maybe send him back down soon.
That's probably where they go, right? Because Andrew Painter is looking like he's going to be major league ready at some point. And honestly, I think you could put Painter and Walker and kind of have them piggyback, and that would be good enough. I don't think the Phillies really need Mick Abel this year, which is great. He's a luxury, and I think he's done his job as a fifth starter. I mean, he's been a way better fifth starter than anybody the Phillies had last year.
The fifth starter is a luxury to be anywhere pretty decent. Fifth starters used to be guys with over 4.5 ERA minimum, like 10, 15 years ago. So the fact that we had a lot of production out of him today, not today though, just in general, it's been really nice.
Yeah,
and he wasn't hit. That's the benefit today. He gave it that double the bases loaded, but it was a couple of, they weren't like barreling him up. So that's always more positive when at least scouts are evaluating him for at least the trade value is, can they like barrel him up? Oh, it's just mechanics. We could fix him. He could get his control back down. He showed progress in that early in the minors. So that is more manageable, I think, especially the way teams don't really care that much about walk rate as much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? Like, if somebody's able to strike out a lot of guys and avoid contact, then you can get away with that higher walk rate. But if you have a guy that, walks a lot of guys and then, allows a lot of fly balls, and you're going to get a lot of sac flies. And luckily, Mick Abel does have that strikeout stuff. I mean, today, the stuff wasn't the problem at all. It was electric. The problem was just that command. And talking about the trade value for Mick Abel, I was playing some out of the park baseball last night, OOTP, and I made a trade involving Mick Abel, and I actually think this is a somewhat realistic trade, and I wanted to run it by you because this is a pretty crazy trade that I think is going to segue into the next thing that we're going to talk about. So one of the big prospects, the Phillies had for a few years is Mick Abel. And one of the people that have been talked a lot that the Phillies should get at the trade deadline is Griffin Jax of the Minnesota Twins. In a 1-for-1, Abel would probably be about right for Griffin Jax, but in OOTP, I was able to ship off Nick Castellanos, and I was able to trade Mick Abel, even though Castellanos had a negative value, and was able to get Griffin Jax in return without having to hold on to any of Castellanos' money through the rest of this year and next year. Obviously, that leaves a gap in right field, and I did my best to fix that in OOTP. But what do you think about that trade, and do you think that that's something that the Phillies could explore, potentially trading off Mick Abel in a package involving, some kind of money that they're trying to get rid of, whether it be Taijuan Walker or Nick Castellanos?
Oh man, you're hired if you could get that trade done. Take Dombrowski's job. No, that is a pretty good value. I mean, we definitely have to be willing to give up something of more value to get something what we need more in the major league level right now. Starting pitching is a surplus. We need another back end reliever. Griffin Jax, his ERA this year is only at 4.08, but his FIP is 1.84. So you gotta imagine that that's just positive regression long term. And he would be perfect for us. He's got a couple more years of control. He's already 30, but I sign me up for that. We give up if somehow get Castellanos along with that, or Taijuan Walker. Oh my God, I would bow down to whoever makes the Dombrowski. I'll never say a bad thing about him again.
Well, the funny thing is, in my save, the Twins ended up making the playoffs, and Nick Castellanos was their cleanup hitter in the playoffs, in which they lost in the wild card series in 2 games. But talking about Cassie being traded, there was an article that came out in The Athletic this morning. Jim Bowden, former GM, and at the very bottom of his list of the potential people that could be traded this year, you saw Nick Castellanos. And I feel like I haven't seen too many people talk about this, but I found it unbelievably interesting. It's been rumored for a couple of off seasons now, including the off season after the Phillies signed Castellanos, that they were looking to trade him. And it's not all that surprising that they're looking to trade him again this trade deadline. But it still is kind of jarring to see at the same time. And I wanted to know what your thoughts on that were and how realistic you think a Castellanos trade could be in the middle of the season that we're coaching for the playoffs.
I mean, I want him off the team. Like, we've both been very clear about our feelings about Castellanos at this point. So I think he would get him off the team would be just a positive just for the clubhouse. Again, there's been no proof of any of this, but I just think the team would just be better. I can't stand him anymore. I do not hide it. I cannot stand him. I want him gone. His approach is terrible. His defense is terrible. And he is just a detriment to this team at this point.
Yeah, look, I like Nick Castellanos a lot as a person. He is an above average. He's an above average hitter from the right side, which the Phillies do not have many of, and it would have to be the right trade for it to be worth it because we don't really have help coming up from the outfield, especially if you want any kind of above average offense coming in up the outfield. But at the same time, I think that you have to consider it because the Phillies have made it clear that their MO is building a sustainable winner and not just going for this year, but we're going for future years as well. And I think that it's possible that the Phillies may have been trying to send a message to Castellanos today with what they did in Game 2 of the doubleheader, right? Schwarber was starting in left field today, and Castellanos was DHing. And in the 7th inning of the game, the Phillies had a pretty good lead at that point. They pinch ran Rojas and took out Schwarber, and then put him as a defensive replacement. And I couldn't help but think that this is pretty strange to see. Obviously, the Phillies have not had any more defensive substitutions for Nick Castellanos, and Kyle Schwarber did it without a problem. Kyle Schwarber is, a legendarily good clubhouse guy. And I just couldn't help but think that maybe they're trying to send a message to Nick by showing that Kyle Schwarber, who is a much better player than him, was able to kind of take that from the team.
I mean, I hope it's true. Passive aggressive. I love that petty stuff. Yeah, send the message. Look how easy it was. No pouting. Boo hoo hoo. We won.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kyle Schwarber, he looked okay in left field. Not all that many balls got hit to him, it felt like, but he's a little bit of a better athlete than he has been in the past.
Well, ever since he lost the weight in the past couple of years, I think he's not that much of a liability. I mean, I think it's just his range is the problem.
Right. It's the same thing as Castellanos, right? Like, you're not going to see any of them drop balls that are hit to them, but it's what balls can they get to. And the difference between Castellanos in right and Schwarber in left probably isn't all that big at this point. But anyways, I wanted to take some time with you today and talk about the National League East. I think it's easy as a baseball fan to kind of be introspective and spend 99% of your time talking about your team and the 26 guys that make up your major league roster. But let's kind of take a little bit of a bigger picture view and talk about the rest of the National League East. So pick a team to start with, and let's talk about them a little bit.
I mean, I think the first one to start with is just the Braves with the news of Schwallenbach.
Yeah, for people that did not hear, Spencer Schwallenbach, he fractured his elbow, and it seems like he may have been pitching with that fractured elbow for at least the last start or two. And this is on top of Chris Sale, who fractured his rib cage and is going to be out for seemingly quite a while. And you have to think that the Braves are in quite a bit of trouble, right?
Oh, they're done. If they make it now to the playoffs, it'll be historic. Just the narrative would be nuts. They are. Well, the website just shifted on me. Yeah, they're 38-46. They're tied with the Marlins, who have a negative. The Marlins have a negative 73 run differential. The Braves have +8. I don't see how they're going to climb past the Mets and us at this point. I mean, knock on wood, it's all-time jinx. I would be awful if this happened, but I don't think they would have a chance of taking the division minimum. Wild card, you got to pass. You got to deal with the Padres, the Brewers / Cubs, and the National League is just decently stacked this year.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this. I think the Braves are done. Stick a fork in them. Their season's done. And I think if you're the Braves at this point, you have to consider selling every last piece you can. And honestly, there's not a lot of pieces that the Braves can sell. They got rid of Verdugo today because Profar is no longer suspended. Not that Verdugo was worth anything, but you look up and down the Braves roster, and what do you really have that you can trade? You have Raisel Iglesias, who has had a bad year and probably isn't worth all that much. You have Marcelo Ozuna, who obviously has off-the-field problems. He has not been as good this year. He's playing hurt right now, but you could probably get something for him as a rental. But I think the Braves, they have a terrible farm system. Bottom 5 farm system in the major leagues. I think they need to rip the Band-Aid off. I think they need to do what the Nationals did a few years ago when they traded Juan Soto. And I think the Braves need to trade Ronald Acuna Jr. There's... Go ahead.
No, that's just, I did not expect that hot take.
I don't even know if it's a hot take. It is, but I don't know if it should be, because the Braves are done. The Braves are absolutely done. Albies has fallen off of a cliff. Turns out that Austin Riley might not be some kind of, all-star consistent third baseman. Acuna has been amazing, but he has 2 ACL tears in one in each of his knees. And he has talked for a long time about how he seemingly has problems with the Braves, or at least Brian Snitker. Chris Sale, who knows how much longer you're going to get good Chris Sale for. They should trade him too. The Braves really need to trade Chris Sale, and they need to trade Ronald Acuna Jr., and they need to just give up. They're done.
I wouldn't trade Acuna out of them. Just the optics. I mean, you gotta think that the fan base would revolt if they trade Acuna. But I agree, he's not going to age well with those 2 ACLs. I don't think he's going to steal 30 bases again. Just he's 27 now, so I don't think he's going to steal 30 bases again. I mean, the one person I know they definitely should trade is Albies. I mean, the guy is way inconsistent, and just something about like all the memes on like Reddit. But they robbed Albies that contract, blah blah blah. But honestly, I wouldn't pay more than $7 million a year for Albies.
No, Albies has not been great recently. I think $7 million I would take him still, but here's the Acuna deal. So Acuna is due $17 million for this year, so about half of that left. Acuna has $8.5 million left this year, $17 million next year, and then club options of $17 million for 27 and 28. So essentially, if somebody were to trade for Acuna, they'd be getting 3.5 years of team control at $17 million a year. This is a trade that would lap the Juan Soto trade in terms of return. Like, if the Phillies wanted to trade for Acuna Jr., which I don't think is going to happen, you are starting the deal at Miller, Painter, and a whole lot more. I'm sure somebody would pay it because Ronald Acuna Jr. is a game breaker and one of the true best players in the league. And I think that for the long-term future of the Braves, they just need to do it.
You definitely have to give Miller and Painter. I'm just worried about the 2 ACLs, one at each knee. That is not gonna go well long term. Maybe even it could show up. That could show up any time. When your knees go, that's just the power, especially the speed.
Right. It's the all-in move of all-in moves. I don't think the Phillies should make it.
Yeah, but if we're gonna if somehow this trade was to happen, it would have to be this year. We would do it. I wouldn't do it any other year.
Yes, absolutely. So, anyways, that was our discussion about the Braves. Next, we'll talk about the Marlins, who you mentioned are tied with the Braves somehow. The Marlins have been kind of frisky this year. I was at Miami a couple months ago for my first time to watch a game there, and there was all of 1,000 people there. I've been to Australian Baseball League games with more people. I'm not even kidding. That's actually completely serious.
Oh, no, I believe it.
It's the difference between announced attendance, or how many tickets they sold, how many people showed up. What do you think about the Marlins? Obviously, they're not a playoff team. They have one of the least talented rosters in the major league. But what do you exactly make of them actually being not a complete disaster this year?
I mean, the Marlins have always been a thorn in the NL East. But besides the 2 years when they won the World Series and then sold everyone off, they've always crushed everyone. We didn't make the playoffs in 2020. Mickey Mouse playoffs didn't really matter because and 2021 because of our record against them. They would just crush us. We couldn't beat them. And then 2007 when we came back against the Mets, I remember watching MLB TV on the tiny 720p monitor, watching Glavine give up 7 runs in the first inning. They are just a pest to everyone in the NL East, and I guess maybe even just general out there. They're like the most well-known, like the playoff. What's the term? Spoilers. Yeah, they are great at playing spoilers in August and September. Historically, they're
going to do it to somebody this year.
Oh, definitely.
They're not a very exciting team. They're, in baseball purgatory where they are never going to spend any money for anybody. But anyways, you pick next between the Nationals and the Mets.
Let's leave the Mets for last. So let's go to the Nationals.
Sure.
Yeah, they're a very exciting team. Their offense is just scary. Honestly, James Woods is going to be a superstar.
Future MVP.
Definitely. Yeah, he has 3.9 B WAR already. Oh my god. Yeah, no, that trade was just nuts for the Nationals. Like,
yeah,
everyone
Mackenzie Gore.
It seems everyone was a hit. Like, you never see that for that many players.
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole Braves thing about how much they could get from Acuna. But yeah, I mean, the one trade, they completely reloaded their entire team, and they're set up incredibly well in a National League East full of aging teams and all that stuff.
Yeah, so here's the trade. They traded Josh Bell and Juan Soto to the Padres for Jarlin Susana, who's still in the minors, C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, Robert Hassel III, and Luke Voigt, who was just there to play a warm body for the Josh Bell replacement. And so Robert Hassel came up a little bit this year, but he was optioned. But he's still I guess he fell off the prospect lists. I don't know why. I guess he was bad in 2024 in the minors. That's why. But yeah, he's hitting 290 in the minors currently. Mackenzie Gore is a stud, 11.7 strikeouts per 9. C.J. Abrams is really great offensively. His defense, I guess, has been better this year. Like he was like a head case for them, and so there
was at the casino in the middle of the night, right? C.J. Abrams last year.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, James Woods is just a superstar in the making, and this Susana guy is, this year he was ranked number 67 by Baseball America, the prospects, number 79 by MLB. But I guess just based on pure stuff, his numbers aren't impressive. But he's striking out over 13 per 9 in Double-A, but 6.9 walks. So I'm guessing he just throws really hard. And a lot
Griff
of
McGarry.
Oh man.
But all these guys are young too, right? Like C.J. Abrams is one of the older guys of that bunch, and he's only 24. He still has a few years left before he's approaching his prime.
Yeah, and the closest trade I could think of that was anywhere close to this was the Teixeira trade between the Braves and the Rangers.
Good call.
Yeah, they got Jared Saltalamacchia, who was decent. It was a decent catcher for a while. Won a World Series with the Red Sox. They got Elvis Andrus, who was a very solid shortstop for many years for the Rangers. Like, how many years was he? Was 12 years with the Rangers, put up 30 WAR. So he was very good. And then they also Matt Harrison, who of course Philly legend, and then Neftali Feliz, who was Rookie of the Year before injuries, and another Philly legend.
Yes, everyone remembers Neftali Feliz's distinguished career with the Phillies, but Nationals unbelievably bright future, but this year is probably not the year, right?
Oh no, they're last place. They're last place for a reason. Like, the rest of the pitching staff, besides Mackenzie Gore, is not that good and consistent. Yeah. No one else has an ERA under 4 as a starter.
Yeah. So
and Kyle Finnegan would be an interesting trade target for the Phillies for a closer if they would trade within division.
I don't mind it. I don't think the Nationals would care all that much about trading between the division because they're not trying to be competitive, and he's on an expiring deal. But the juicy stuff, as you mentioned earlier, the New York Mets, they continue to slide. They are actually winning right now. There's 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning, and they have a 4-run lead on the Brewers. So looks like they're going to win and split their doubleheader today as well. But Mets fans have got to be really concerned about this team, right?
Oh, very much so. They're getting injured. Griffin Canning's out for the year, basically.
Achilles, probably next year too.
Yeah. Senga got hurt because of Pete Alonso. Who knows how long he's going to be out? Who knows how long Clay Holmes can last? It's his first year as a full-time starter. His FIP is over 4. And he got lit up today with the combination of Reed Garrett, who I feel has also been a little bit more human lately.
Reed Garrett's completely regressed, yeah. You look at David Peterson, that's another guy who was overperforming his FIP pretty much, the whole first half of the season, and that's starting to, go back to its proper place.
Yeah, and besides Juan Soto, who's been on a tear lately, their offense it's not good at all. I mean, I don't think they have a home run from a second baseman unless Jeff McNeil's been playing second base.
Jeff McNeil's been playing all over the place. He's doing a lot of outfield this year. He's been everywhere. But Alonso has slowed down quite a bit from his torrid first month.
Yeah, no. So they're basically when we panicked, we lost 9 out of 10, and then the Mets got a 5-game lead on us because of that. We overtook that, and then it grew a little bit, and that's including when we got scored 1 run against the Astros. So even our gigantic, massive struggles, we still have been we're more consistent than the Mets have been.
Yeah, I want to say that going into today, the Mets had lost 13 of 16, and now with the split, they'll have lost 14 of 18. So that is a really rough stretch for the Mets. And I don't know about USJ, but when I look at the National League East, right, I see a couple of probably good but flawed teams in the Phillies and in the Mets. I see a team that is completely falling apart in the Braves, and I see a not great Marlins, and I see a not great Nationals. This division is unbelievably overrated, right? Like, I can't help but feel that way after taking a look at each of these teams.
Oh yeah, welcome back in at least.
It's just not a good division. I mean, I would guess that this is probably a better division than the National League Central. No, I would take the NL West every day over the NL East.
The National League Central, the Pirates are the only team under 500, and they've been on a tear.
The National League Central, I feel like gets a lot of these teams playing each other. Like, I don't personally believe in the Reds yet. I really don't believe in the Brewers. Like, I feel like you have a lot of okay teams in the Central, and then one good team in the Cubs.
I am my secret hope for the trade deadline. I'm throwing this out there. I'm manifesting it. I want the Brewers to go on a massive losing streak. I say our savior is going to be Hoskins.
And put Harper back in the outfield?
Yeah. Get rid of Castellanos, put Hoskins at DH.
I am all for putting Harper back in the
Hoskins at first. Yeah.
Or Hoskins back in left field?
Left. No, definitely not that. But like Harper in left so he doesn't like kill himself running in the right field stuff.
You don't want to throw back to Hoskins' time in left field 7 years ago?
Hey, if he stayed there, he would have been this generation's Pat Burrell. Basically was.
Probably
basically
worse.
Was. Basically great power, really good walk rate, terrible fielding. He is this generation's Pat Burrell.
I would love Rhys Hoskins. Unfortunately, the Brewers have been pretty good of late. We kind of started off that hot streak for the Brewers, and I don't expect that to happen, but I would like it to happen. So let's go a little bit into some questions we got from users, and we have quite a few today. The first one we got from Phillies City Connect to Jersey on Discord is, do you think we might make a trade for Harry Ford? He's the best catching prospect, and we need a stopgap before Tite is ready. And what are your thoughts on potentially giving up Crawford for Ford with a bigger package on our end, obviously?
So what team is he on? I'm not familiar with this guy.
I believe Harry Ford is a Yankees prospect.
No, he is a Mariners prospect.
Okay, then I'm wrong. He is a Mariners prospect.
Yeah, 12th overall pick in the 2021 draft in AAA. He's 22 years old. PCL, so take it with a grain of salt. OPS is 886. No idea what the OPS plus in PCL is insane. Like the guy the Rockies just called up had a similar OPS, and his OPS plus was like 90. So you never know.
I guess Phillies City Connect Jersey's question makes a lot of sense because obviously the Mariners have Big Dumper locking down the catching spot for probably years into the future. So Harry Ford might be a luxury that they can't have, and I don't hate the idea. I would probably imagine that you are giving up Taiit. Like, Harry Ford's not going to be a stopgap looking at, his pedigree and how he's performed in the minor leagues. He is the catcher of the future if you trade for him.
I would not do Taiit for him at all. That sounds terrible. I would. Well, Taiit's closer than that.
You think so? I don't think Taiit's sticking at catcher. All the reports I see is that Taiit, he'd be lucky to stick at catcher. So, as of now, I actually don't think the Phillies have a catcher past JT.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind signing JT for another. He's still pretty good overall for the National League and Major League Baseball. All just got to expect him to be like the 8th place hitter, 7th place hitter.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole discussion in the future, and I'll invite you for this discussion about the Phillies' expiring contracts. And I got some contracts from OOTP, and we're going to talk in the future on if you would want to take those deals that these players are asking for in OOTP, or if you wouldn't take them, and what you think their value is. So we're split on this, which is nice. I would be all for Harry Ford. I think Crawford and Taiit would be something that I would consider, especially if you got another prospect back with Ford, because him and Taiit aren't all that different according on prospect rankings now. But
that's the thing. That like the trade was because I would hope we would do other moves too, because we're getting a guy in just for minor league trade our prospects for a guy that's not going to help the team this year. That's a luxury trade at the very minimum.
How about you include Munoz? And you obviously would have to give up more on that side, right? If you're trading for Munoz, you're probably giving up like an Arun Escobar and an Abel in that deal too. But I would love having him in the bullpen.
Ooh, I would like that, but they're still in the push right now, and I guess you can always catch Jerry DiPoto on a binge trade deadline. He might be able to make some terrible moves.
Call him at 4:30 in the morning, and he'll be awake, staring at his spreadsheets. I love Jerry DiPoto. I'm not making fun of him, but it'd be interesting. I think that a Mariners deal could work out. Maybe Harry Ford is a part of that if the Phillies are not big believers in Taiit. But that division, the American League West, is not good. The Astros are good, but the rest of the division's not good at all.
Yeah, no. If we get Munoz in that trade, I am definitely willing to do that trade. If we give up a couple big prospects, we get Munoz and Ford. That's a perfect trade. I would not be against that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next question we got from Lucas on Discord. By the way, if you want to join our Discord or the Reddit, the links to that are going to be in the show notes to ask us questions in the future. And he had a question about if the Phillies were building a sustainable winner and what goes into building a sustainable winner. So I just wanted to ask you, do you think that what the Phillies are doing is sustainable, not just into this year, not into next year, but into the late 2020s and the 2030s?
Not at this moment. There's a very big reason for that. It is hitting prospects. We cannot develop consistent hitting prospects. We talk about Stott a lot this episode. So we have Stott and Bohm. I'm trying to think. We Stott, Bohm, Hoskins. Who else have we developed in the past 10 years?
You have Crawford, who will be up soon.
He's not up yet. He's not even closer to them. We have JP Crawford, but JP Crawford is one.
JP Crawford is good, but he's didn't really do all that much with the Phillies.
Oh no, but we got his Jimmy Siggs.
And he credits the trade to Seattle as being what helped him turn into who he is. So I don't think
exactly. But so in the past 10, 15 years, we've got four hitters have come up through us that have been minimum serviceable.
Yeah,
that's not good.
What I think the Phillies need to do
we've had a lot of we've had a lot of high draft picks in that time.
Yeah, Cornelius Randolph.
Oh my god. Yeah, but we got the number 1 overall pick in the weakest draft in a decade.
Yeah, of course.
Moniak.
I remember reading about that in high school. I was about to give the morning announcements in high school, and I read that the Phillies drafted Mickey Moniak, and I was so excited to have a number 1 overall pick, and that didn't turn out to anything. But anyways, what I think the Phillies need to do is they need to draft more college guys. The Phillies love drafting high school guys because it's high risk, high reward, and they especially love drafting high school arms. You see it more often than you don't. they shouldn't be so afraid to draft guys from college. Like, they're probably not going to explode and be the next, MVP of the league. It's lower risk, lower reward, but the Phillies just need some kind of production in the system coming up, ideally pretty soon, because the Phillies have a couple, gaps coming up in terms of offensive talent. Just draft some college guys that are going to be pretty good and can stand in the outfield or stand at third base, or just give us something, please.
I mean, we have drafted the college guys. Hazley, Bohm, Stott, all college guys.
Before Dombrowski, though, like, this current administration has avoided college guys in early rounds of the draft.
Yes. Since 2020 was Abel, high school. 2021 was Painter, high school. 2022 was Crawford, high school. 2023 Miller, high school, but that just fell to us. No one has a problem with that one.
That was lucky.
And then, 2024 Nori. We talked about that a couple episodes ago. How that was one of the worst draft picks I've ever seen.
Yes.
Yeah. So we you're right. Yeah. Ever since wow, the past 6 drafts past 5 drafts. Yeah, that's definitely. If you want to keep the window open, you need to mix in some college guys in there to be up sooner.
Yeah, and I think the other concern as far as building a sustainable winner is the contracts, right? Like, Bryce Harper is still very productive, but he's not going to be as productive 3 years from now. Trey Turner is still very productive, not going to be as productive 3 years from now. Aaron Nola is a big question in general, and the Phillies have some bad contracts, and I'm worried that if they sign Kyle Schwarber to some kind of 5-year, $150 million deal, like some people are talking about, that's just going to be another albatross that just makes it impossible for them to compete a few years from now.
Yeah, I agree. You can't bring back Schwarber and Castellanos next year. I love Schwarber, but if they're both on the team next year, I feel that would be just a big disaster, just from logistics of how the lineup would work, all that jazz.
And as these guys age, you're going to need the DH position open. Like, the Phillies are probably going to have to do what most teams do and just have the DH be, a way to give somebody a day, or if somebody has a nagging injury, they can hang out in DH for a couple weeks and get better. And I don't love the idea in modern baseball of having a set DH 95% of the time, and that's what Kyle Schwarber is.
Yeah, it introduces liability, especially we got the blessing with Harper when he tore his UCL. That he was able to DH.
Right. And if that happened now, then you probably are putting Schwarber back in left field, and you're putting Castellanos in right field, and you have the worst defensive outfield of all time.
Let's do it. Bring back... Hey, we made the World Series, okay? So, was it really the worst of all time?
It's a good point. Good point, but they're all a few years older now. That's 3 years ago somehow, which scares me.
Yeah, and just some of the evaluation of these long-term contracts, like the Walker contract, made no sense at that time. Even then, everyone was just like, "Please work out," begging. No one. He was hurt constantly his whole career, and his stats and just this again. The Phillies ignore the stats right in front of them. Like, faded down the stretch with the Mets in his one really good year.
Yeah, I mean, the thing you have to be careful with in free agency and, extensions is you can't pay people for past performance. That's what teams did 20 years ago. You have to pay people for what you project them to do in the future. And I trust that Dave Dombrowski knows that. He obviously knows that. But in order to build a sustainable winner, I want to see a new team, a new generation come up. Part of that coming from draft picks, part of that coming from smart contracts you're giving to younger free agents instead of, maybe extensions to older free agents.
Yeah, the Dodgers, they finally broke through and won a real World Series last year, but all their decade plus of success, they fixed they made Justin Turner into a very good player. They made Max Muncy into a star. What's his face?
Chris Taylor.
Yes, Chris Taylor was another guy that you got to have a good development system, and I just don't think we have that on the hitting side.
The pitching side, incredible. Hitting side, terrible.
Yeah, no. I will say, I think Kevin Long, his time is worn out with this organization. I just think we need a new voice, a new mindset. I think it's still sticking to the launch ball era where the balls are juiced heavily. I just don't think. I think we need a different approach organizationally wide.
Without a doubt. Now on to our next question from Coaster Craze, also on Discord. What do you think Nola and Alvarado will look like when they come back?
Well, Nola, it depends. Is it warm? That's his big, two things. Nola pitching in even years and warmth. He can't pitch in odd years. If you look at his stats the past 5 years, it's just back and forth. 2020, ERA of 3.28. 2021, 4.63. 2022, 3.25. 2023, 4.46. 2024, 3.57. And then this year, 6.16 in 9 starts. The guy is every other year at this point. It is just annoying.
And you can even go back to 2018, where he was a Cy Young finalist, and I think that's the best Phillies pitcher I've seen in the last decade. 2018 Nola, and 2019 was a disastrous year for him. Aaron Nola, yep. I expect him to eat innings coming back. Like, I'm a little worried that at this point in his career, Aaron Nola is an innings eater.
Yeah, that's the best case that you want. You want to ERA under 5 at this point for him, and him to go 7 innings every start. That's what I want from him.
Yeah, I probably think it would be better if that money was available to spend on Ranger Suarez, but it's unfortunately not. And I think he'll do a job. You know, he's probably a 4 at this point, a 3 maybe. It's hard to say with Aaron Nola, but it does look like he will be back sooner rather than later. There's been good reports coming out of that, in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully sometime after the trade deadline, we can get him back and find out exactly what we're getting. But I think we're both not expecting him to light the world on fire. So how about the other guy that's coming back? I think he is due to come off his suspension in mid-August, and that is Jose Alvarado.
I hope he's been keeping up with his cardio, because I would expect them to use and abuse his arm. He is not available for the postseason. Get ready to pitch every day of the week, my friend.
Yeah. And he's also on an expiring deal. He has an option for next year at $9 million that I don't think we expect the Phillies to pick up. But yeah, I mean, why not just throw him all the time? He's probably not going to be the same way that he was, because he's not going to be on steroids anymore. But, he'll be probably serviceable for, the last month and a half of the year to absolutely throw his arm off.
Yep, just having a lefty that can throw. I'm assuming he's still going to throw in high velocity. I don't think the steroids were like instant like that.
96 now? We were 95, 96?
Better than 90, 87 from Strom.
True. It's true. Or Ranger Suarez, for that matter, who I think had 3 pitches that hit 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, you want to give him that money. Ranger hasn't shown he can last a full season. It's just a very odd situation with the Ranger. He's going to leave, and I'm okay with that at this point. Even if he goes really, he has not shown his back is not going to get better. Back injuries do not get better; they get worse. And it's been how many years with his back? It's been past 2 years, and I feel he's had it in the past 2.
Yeah, it has. And he's been a tremendous Philly. I love Ranger Suarez. He's done everything we've asked him to do and more. And I said in the last episode that I thought there was more of a chance maybe that they would re-sign him, but I don't know what I was saying. I was getting too excited in the moment. If you want, gun to my head to tell me what do I think is going to happen with Ranger Suarez, I'd be very surprised if he came back.
Oh yeah, especially with Scott Boras. He gone.
Yeah. And one guy with degenerative issues to another guy. What is your opinion on Bryce Harper's return? And this question is from Kepler's Left Leg on Discord. And he also asks, do you think that he was rushed and spent too little time recovering?
Yeah, but I think Bryce Harper wasn't going to let them keep him on the IL for longer. I feel he's one of the guys that would file a grievance if they try to keep him any longer.
Yeah, I am concerned about Bryce Harper being back. The power especially just doesn't have that jolt that he used to have. I think he can still be, a 95th percentile player without, the power, the 60, 65 grade power. But with that being said, Bryce Harper's peak is over. And he could still be the best player on a team that wins the World Series. But I would have rather him been out for longer, at least until the trade deadline. But that's just me.
Yeah, his injuries are always nagging. The way how violently he swings. I agree. I feel like a little bit more time would have been nice.
Back, wrist,
Oh yeah.
elbow, hit in the
Oh yeah.
face. This guy's been through the ringer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But that is the end of our mailbag for today. If anybody has any questions in the future, reach out on Reddit or on Discord. And that's all that I had for today, SJ. Do you have anything else before we wrap up tonight's episode?
No, I mean, just things are looking good. We're away from the Astros. Ever since we left the Astros, the offense looks like it's been more consistent. We've won 4 out of 6. So, I mean, if I guess 5 out of, I don't know, 4 out of 6, I guess swept by the Astros, what am I saying? So, yeah, I mean, the Reds, I want a sweep of the Reds. Please sweep the Reds. But I just know Edward Encarnacion Strand with his sub 200 batting average and like 400 OPS is going to hit like 3 homers against this. I'm calling it.
Yeah, the pitching matchups for the Reds are Andrew Abbott against Jesus Luzardo, Nick Lodolo against Ranger Suarez, and Chase Burns against Zach Wheeler. So I like at least a couple of those pitching matchups. I think that, Burns versus Wheeler, we have the advantage there, and probably a slight advantage too in Lodolo, Ranger, and Abbott and Luzardo.
Yeah, especially if Burns was tipping like everyone thinks he was doing. Hopefully that's not fixed.
Yeah, and one more thing that I wanted to bring up before the end of this episode, you brought up Houston. I want to talk a little bit about the stadiums in Houston and Texas that I was at last week. They're both pretty nice. I know a lot of people kind of shit on domes, and I think that the experience of watching a game and the actual stadium itself is much better when you're outdoors. But it's just so much more comfortable to be inside, man. Like, I was at those games and I wasn't sweating, even though I was in Texas in the middle of the summer. And then I come back here and I go to the game tonight and I am just sweating nonstop. I feel like I'm still sweating back into my house now after being back for an hour. And I kind of like domes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a hot boy also, and then just I sweat very easily. Go outside. It doesn't matter. Even like at the Giants games in the SF when I used to live in California, just I would still sweat up a storm. Especially it's seasonable there. Like it's not hot temperature wise. Normally it's but like it's just that sun's beating down at you when you're at Oracle Park.
Yeah, I've heard that Oracle Park is beautiful. That is,
it is
perhaps the stadium I want to visit the most. I've been to 19 of the current Major League stadiums, and I've also been to Old Turner Field and the Vets. So I've been to 21 baseball stadiums. But Oracle Park is number one of the ones that I want to go to.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I sweat very easily. I get very uncomfortable in the heat, and I hate sunscreen on my skin when all that happens too. So I selfishly also just prefer a dome just for the ease of convenience.
Yeah, sunscreen on the skin, absolutely with you. I hate it. But for reference, out of the 20 stadiums that I have ranked, I don't remember enough of the Vet to have it on my rankings. The Astros at Daikin Park is number 12 on my list, and the Rangers at Globe Life Field are number 9. For reference, the Phillies are number 14 on that list. So I like both of those places more than I liked at least the current iteration of Citizens Bank Park, which has been absolutely destroyed over the years.
Oh no! The flower beds. I weep every time.
The scoreboard, useless. Like, the scoreboard is so bad at Citizens Bank Park, and it breaks all of the time. I hate like the ad that they have behind home plate, the digital ad. It's distracting. The out of town scoreboard is terrible. Like, every change they make is making the stadium worse and just sucking out the charm from it. But
yeah. I know. Just I can't believe they got rid of the brick wall with the green screen.
I know, so sad. Like, I want to look at the score and I have to pull up my phone, which is like the last thing that I want to look at when I'm at a baseball game. But anyways, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, SJ.
Well, no, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and everybody, thank you for listening. This is a little bit of a longer episode today. Hope you enjoyed that. And we will be back on Sunday with another episode after the Phillies hopefully do sweep the Reds. And have a good one, everybody.